David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, breaking news, wildfires rage out of control. Nearly 200,000 people forced to evacuate their homes as firefighters battle massive infernos. Video shows a reporter in front of her camera when a gas canister explodes, injuring a firefighter. Marcus Moore with the images coming in. Here in the U.S. tonight, a sobbing teenage high school shooter in his own words.
Shooting in a classroom, dude.
The moment he cried to authorities about having second thoughts before pulling the trigger. The victims' families confronting him. Dramatic images show a seaplane crashing into the water, bursting into flames. The race to rescue 11 people on board. Relentless rain and dangerous flash flooding across the southeast. Extreme heat alerts for 85 million from Los Angeles to Minneapolis. Lee Goldberg tracking it all. Tonight, 3 months after gunmen breached security at the White House Correspondents Dinner, the event rescheduled for tonight with even tighter security in place. The White House says President Trump will deliver a, quote, unifying yet vicious speech. President Trump considering potential massive attacks in the war in Iran as Iran claims it's targeting U.S. bases in Jordan and Iraq. The effect on gas prices here at home. Here in New York, the suspect accused of stabbing attacks near Central Park now charged with a hate crime. Calling it his last decision, LeBron James picks the next and final team of his career, chasing a championship. Former NFL star Tony Romo arrested on suspicion of DUI, and a health problem forcing Jon Bon Jovi to abruptly end his concert at Madison Square Garden. News on his condition tonight.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis in for David. We begin tonight with the wildfires exploding and burning out of control in Europe. Incredibly, nearly 200,000 people forced to evacuate homes in southern France and central Spain. Hundreds of firefighters battling flames on the ground and in the air. Video shows a reporter in front of her camera when a gas canister exploded, injuring a firefighter. The wildfires fueled by back-to-back heat waves straining emergency services. ABC's Marcus Moore leads us off.
Tonight, nearly 200,000 people evacuating parts of France and Spain, fleeing out-of-control wildfires consuming dozens of square miles. Huge plumes of smoke darkening the sky over southwest France's beaches, popular with American tourists. Whipping winds and a historic heat wave in part fueling the flames. Homes in this neighborhood burned to the ground. One resident saying he, his wife and son battled the flames throughout the night, able to protect 4 houses. Across the border in central Spain, authorities racing to evacuate this care home as flames burn nearby. Assisting the most vulnerable, people using walkers and wheelchairs. This gas canister igniting behind a French reporter as she prepared to appear on the news, flames shooting into the sky. Authorities declaring a state of emergency as the flames spread. They say dozens of firefighters have been injured battling the blaze, but so far, no deaths reported.
And Lindsay, the French Interior Minister calling these fires unprecedented and far worse than the wildfires that burned there in 2022. Lindsay.
The scale of these fires just staggering, Marcus. Thank you. Here in the U.S., a gut-wrenching scene in a Georgia courtroom. The sentencing hearing for a teenage gunman who pleaded guilty to a deadly high school shooting. 2 students and 2 teachers killed. Prosecutors playing audio of the gunman, in his own words, sobbing as he described preparing for the shooting, torn about whether to go through with it. Here's ABC's Faith Abubey.
Tonight, for the first time since a Georgia student shot and killed 4 people inside Apalachee High School, the teenager, in his own words,
I'm so sorry.
The then 14-year-old sobbing in a police interview played during today's sentencing hearing, telling investigators he had second thoughts just before he carried out the deadly massacre in September 2024.
I had a moment of in the bathroom, I was like, I really shouldn't do this.
Colt Gray blaming his degrading mental health and at one point saying in the interview that he warned his father before the deadly school shooting.
I told him to hide his guns and he did, but I don't know how I found them.
The courtroom gripped with emotion as the teenager entered a guilty plea, admitting to all charges in his 55-count indictment. It was nearly 2 years ago when the chaos unfolded just about an hour outside Atlanta. Gray killing 2 students and 2 teachers with a gun his father bought him as a Christmas gift. 9 others were injured and an entire school of kids left traumatized. Gray's father, Colin, convicted earlier this year after prosecutors say he repeatedly ignored red flags. At one point during today's victim impact statements, Gray laughing with the courtroom, but only for a moment. Survivors and victims' loved ones sharing their pain.
I have lived 688 days so far. I was sentenced with no parole, and that is what he should receive as well.
And Lindsay, with his guilty plea today, Gray's fate now lies in the hands of the judge, and there are only 2 options: life in prison with or without parole. Lindsay.
Faith Abubey for us, thank you. Now to the dramatic images showing a seaplane crashing into the water off Washington State. The plane bursting into flames, witnesses racing to rescue the 11 people on board. Here's ABC's Trevor All.
Tonight, the urgent investigation into that terrifying crash of a tourist float plane along the coast of Washington State. A plane skimming low over the water, then flying behind trees, and you can hear it hit the rocky shore. Good Samaritans in boats rushing to the rescue, the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard racing in behind them.
Those Good Samaritans were critical in providing aid to the passengers.
Wreckage erupting in flames. All 10 passengers and the pilot scrambling to escape.
Just stay there.
Some were able to swim to shore, others more badly injured.
We have 1 patient remaining in our care in satisfactory condition.
Tonight, the operator of the plane, Ken Moore Air, says its pilot adjusted his flight path because of weather.
The fact that all 11 people, including the pilot, got out indicates the resilience of this type of airplane.
Lindsay, the airline says that airplane passed all its recent inspections. The FAA and NTSB are now investigating. Lindsay?
So glad they made it all out. Trevor, thank you. Next tonight, tracking relentless rain and dangerous flash flooding in the southeast. The threat stretches into the weekend. Heavy rain, flooding, and downed trees from Alabama to the Carolinas. More than 85 million now under heat alerts from Los Angeles to Minneapolis. Let's get right to ABC senior meteorologist Lee Goldberg. What are you monitoring, Lee?
Lindsay, this front is just barely budging across the south, and it's a focus for flooding rain. We've had flash flood warnings in places like Birmingham and Atlanta all day long, thanks to slow-moving downpours, over 3 inches of rain in spots. And in the eastern Carolinas, flood watches, they go all the way through Saturday. A level 3 or 4 flood threat, that's for much of South Carolina all the way up to Wilmington, North Carolina. 3-inch-per-hour rainfall rates possible. It finally dries out on Sunday. Then the focus shifts to the extreme heat. It's all the way from the southwest to the Twin Cities. Extreme heat watches in effect through Monday. Heat advisories widespread across the plains. Look at the triple-digit temperatures, places like Las Vegas and Phoenix. That's expected, but look at Billings shattering records to Rapid City down to Denver. It'll be 101. The heat goes into the Midwest with a smoky haze into early next week. Lindsay?
That heat is relentlessly. Thank you. Now to the record outbreak of that parasitic intestinal illness expanding across the country. 4 more states now linked to the surge in cases, which are believed to be caused by contaminated shredded iceberg lettuce. Taylor Farms is now suspending production of iceberg lettuce in Mexico. Taco Bell already removing its supply. New Hampshire health officials have tied a cluster of cases to lettuce from a hospital cafeteria. Cases have been reported in more than 40 states. Tonight, 3 months after a gunman breached security at the White House Correspondents Dinner, the event is taking place again tonight with even tighter security in place. Chaos erupted at the original dinner when suspect Cole Allen allegedly breached security and opened fire inside the Washington Hilton Hotel. President Trump and thousands of journalists and guests were inside. The president plans to attend tonight. The White House says he will deliver a, quote, unifying yet vicious speech. Here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
Almost 3 months to the day after a gunman breached security at the annual White House Correspondents Dinner. Secret Service sweeping in to protect the president, rushing him to safety. Guests at the Washington Hilton hitting the floor, hiding under tables. Tonight, a redo, but on a smaller scale and at a different venue. This time at the former Trump Hotel in Washington, the Waldorf Astoria, just blocks from the White House.
As I said 3 months ago, the show must go on.
Secret Service stepping up security, saying guests will see a visible police presence around the hotel with enhanced traffic closures. All ticketed guests will go through airport-style magnetometer screening to enter the event. The evening's entertainer, mentalist Oz Perlman, who was on the dais back in April speaking to the First Lady when Secret Service burst through the ballroom doors. The president at the time was adamant that the dinner go on. Tonight, he's prepared to meet the press, his first time speaking at the annual gala.
Tonight, we come back together to answer that heinous attack with unwavering resolve, and every one of us here this evening to show that in America, we do not yield to political violence.
One notable addition tonight, an award for exceptional service being given to Officer Victor Gonzalez, who 3 months ago was struck in his ballistic vest by gunfire in those chaotic moments as the gunman rushed toward the ballroom. The staff at the Hilton also being honored for their professionalism and commitment to service. And Lindsay, security here is extremely tight. This is Pennsylvania Avenue here behind me, now completely shut down. President Trump himself insisted that this dinner still go on, and tonight he's describing this as a hot ticket. Lindsay.
Sure it is, Mary. Thank you. Now to the war in Iran. President Trump deliberating with top advisors at the White House as he weighs massive attacks on Iranian targets. Iran says it's targeting U.S. bases in Jordan and Iraq and is warning civilians to stay 500 meters away from facilities possibly housing American troops. All of this is having a significant impact on Americans here in the U.S. The national average for gas now hitting $4.10 per gallon. The price of oil jumping 8% this week. ABC's Matt Rivers reports from Jordan tonight.
After pounding targets in Iran for 2 weeks, President Trump huddling with top advisors at the White House, weighing whether to ramp up the U.S. military assaults.
We can even make it a heavier dose, and it's knocking out everything they have. Or there's a smarter strategy, and that's you make a deal.
The president says he's not in a rush.
I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry.
It comes just days after the remains of 4 American soldiers killed were returned home. Today, Iran claiming a fresh wave of drones launched toward U.S. targets in the region. Smoke seen rising near a base in northern Iraq where U.S. forces are deployed. U.S. forces hitting Iranian drone sites near the Strait of Hormuz. The flow of oil there now at a standstill, as gas prices at home surged to $4.10 per gallon.
I looked up at the price. I'm like, oh my gosh, gas went up again by a lot.
And now fears of another front in this war.
There's real concern here along the Red Sea after multiple Houthi attacks on Saudi shipping. Fear is that if the Houthis and the Iranians decide to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, it would be another massive hit to the global economy.
Tonight, Saudi media releasing undated video appearing to show unidentified armed men on boats in the Red Sea.
And Lindsay, tonight we are just learning that the Saudi military has just carried out new strikes against Houthi targets inside of Yemen. This war right now shows every sign of expanding with no clear signs of any off-ramp. Lindsay?
Matt Rivers in Jordan for us. Thank you. Here in New York City, the suspect accused of stabbing 2 people near Central Park now charged with a hate crime. The attacks happening just blocks apart. Here's ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky. Aaron?
Lindsay, these random stabbings rattled the neighborhood, and as the mayor said today, Lindsay, they horrified the entire city. And tonight, the suspect, 51-year-old Raul Morales, is charged with attempted murder and assault, and police are also charging him with committing a hate crime. Morales was moved a short time ago from the police precinct on Manhattan's Upper West Side. That's just blocks from where he allegedly stabbed 2 men in their 50s Thursday afternoon, while police said he shouted Allahu Akbar. An Asian man was stabbed in the back with a knife. A Jewish man was stabbed in the chest with a screwdriver. Both victims, thankfully, Lindsay, are recovering tonight in the hospital. Lindsay?
Glad to hear that, Aaron. Thank you. Now to a blockbuster move from one of basketball's biggest stars, LeBron James, announcing what he calls the last decision of his career. He's heading to the Philadelphia 76ers, hoping his final chapter before retirement ends with one more championship. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, NBA superstar LeBron James has made his decision, signing with the Philadelphia 76ers after heated speculation over the past 2 months. James signing a 2-year, $8 million contract and taking a significant pay cut.
No, is he coming? He's coming. Oh my God, he's coming!
LeBron saying he was on the verge of retirement prior to making his choice, but ultimately decided to continue playing, writing on X, "I still want to compete, to win, and to have a chance at the feeling of winning another championship."
He made it very clear from the beginning. I want to compete for a championship. I want to win at a high level.
This is not a money-driven decision.
For weeks, the 41-year-old had been heavily pursued by teams across the league. LeBron James is arguably the greatest player of all time, the league's all-time scoring leader, and holding numerous NBA records during his 23 seasons, along with winning 4 NBA championships across 3 teams. LeBron hoping to take Philly to their first championship in 43 years. Fans in Philly ecstatic.
We got to put full fire behind them. We got to show them welcome to Philly.
And Lindsay, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro declaring today LeBron James Day. The city of Philadelphia now with high expectations for the upcoming season, with ticket demand already skyrocketing tonight. Lindsay.
City of Brotherly Love ecstatic. Morgan, thank you. When we come back, the historic university unenrolling 500 students just weeks before the start of classes. What's behind this move? Trouble for former NFL quarterback Tony Romo. Details on his arrest and the report from deputies. Plus, a fish tank shatters, hundreds of fish and gallons of water flooding the floor of a pet shop. And the health setback forcing Jon Bon Jovi to suddenly stop his concert at Madison Square Garden. Next tonight, Howard University facing backlash for unenrolling more than 500 freshmen just weeks before the start of the fall semester. Hundreds of incoming students received emails from the school saying they were no longer being accepted after not meeting the tuition payment deadline. School officials say they sent out multiple notices about that deadline. Students say their student loans and scholarships haven't come through yet. They usually post around August 1st. Howard says it's reviewing the information. Classes begin August 17th. Former NFL quarterback Tony Romo arrested in Milwaukee. Romo was taken into custody for allegedly operating a vehicle while under the influence last night. Reports say Romo performed poorly on field sobriety tests. He was released hours later. Romo spent 14 years with the Cowboys and is currently an analyst for CBS Sports. No comment from Romo tonight. When we come back, Jon Bon Jovi reveals why he suddenly ended his show at Madison Square Garden. To the index, a massive fish tank shatters at a pet shop in suburban Chicago. Surveillance cameras capture the tank bursting at this store in Fox Lake. 2,000 gallons of water rushed from the tank. More than 350 fish died as workers attempted to scoop up the fish and get them back into the water. Store workers suspect a seam at the top of the tank may have given out. A troubling milestone as U.S. measles cases hit a 35-year high. The CDC reports 2,318 cases so far this year. That number eclipses the total reported for all of 2025. Cases have been confirmed in at least 43 states. South Carolina and Utah have the highest numbers. CDC data shows most cases are among people who are unvaccinated or with an unknown vaccination status. Jon Bon Jovi is apologizing to fans after abruptly ending his show at Madison Square Garden. The singer called it quits on stage Thursday about 90 minutes into the set. A spokesperson later confirmed Bon Jovi has been battling a sinus infection. Bon Jovi says he plans to reschedule. His next concert at MSG is still set for Sunday. When we come back, a runner's emotional reaction to a surprise on race day, the secret that brought her to tears. Finally tonight, one man goes the distance to surprise his girlfriend on race day. In St. Charles, Missouri, one small secret and an unforgettable surprise.
You're making me nervous. What? Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. You're fine. No.
22-year-old Emma Kessler overcome with emotion. She thought she'd be running her very first half marathon alone. But tucked inside that trunk, an extra pair of running shoes, and a reminder that the longest journeys are often lighter when someone chooses to carry them with us. Her boyfriend, Jason, quietly training for weeks.
I've been running every weekend since the last one that you ran to run it with you.
Never letting on.
I have lied to you so many times over the last 2.5 months about what I'm doing.
Emma admits her anxiety about race day had reached an all-time high. Jason, a competitive powerlifter, added endurance training to his routine so she wouldn't have to face those 13.1 miles by herself. And together, step by step, Jason going the extra mile, or 13.1 to be specific, crossing the finish line side by side. Because sometimes the greatest act of strength is simply showing up and reminding someone they never have to run alone. Way to go, Jason. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis. For all of us, good night.
David Muir, the most trusted, most watched newscast in America. And now, World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the 4th year in a row.